Tom Cameron's crazy.
Brett Huntley. David Fraser. John Chancellor. Tom Brokaw.
Hurricane Wilma, major damage at a famous coastal resort in Mexico. Now, Florida braces for the storm. The war in Iraq, a deadly milestone. The toll of Americans killed approaches 2,000. In depth, tracking a deadly virus, bird flu. Are Americans stockpiling drugs which could combat the killer? Show me the money. Retailers start the holiday season early, really early. And Southside Story, the Aussie factor taking Hispanics out to the ballpark in Chicago.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with John Siegenthaler.
Good evening, everyone. Hurricane Wilma is churning through the Gulf of Mexico tonight, picking up speed and appears to have her sights set on the southwest coast of Florida. With winds of more than 100 miles an hour, the storm is expected to make landfall sometime tomorrow morning. But Wilma has already left the path of destruction in Mexico, where high winds and rain severely damaged the resort area of Cancun, where many Americans and Mexicans are stranded tonight. We have several reports, beginning with NBC's Peter Alexander in Cancun tonight. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening, John. The final remnants of Hurricane Wilma are just now passing. It has been with us for the last 72 hours. And today we got our first look at the extent of the damage. Across Mexico's Caribbean coast, devastation. Hurricane Wilma destroyed homes and left Cancun's popular strip of luxury hotels and restaurants in ruins. Floodwaters and debris block most roads. The death toll at least 7 here. But emergency crews still can't reach many areas in Wilma's long and powerful path. In places, uncertainty and anger. We want to get to our home, this woman yells. Officers say the area is still too dangerous. Anita Boldo is Cancun's assistant police chief. Your top priority right now is what?
Our top priority right now is saving lives and keeping people safe.
But Wilma has already taken its toll on her.
It's very sad. It's very hard to see all this.
We found Geraldine Sullivan and Melissa Anderson of Denver alone and shocked.
We were so excited for it to be over, but now it's just despair.
For the first time in 3 days, tens of thousands stranded here were finally safe to go outside and search for food and water. Some lined up for it, others took it. Soon, looters stole anything they could move. After Hurricane Katrina, Carl Nichols of Long Beach, Mississippi came here with his family for a break. Once again, they're evacuees.
Well, the good news about Katrina is we could go somewhere and get out of the way. This one we had no choice. We were stuck with every other person here surviving.
What once was viewed as a tropical paradise is now unrecognizable. The U.S. Embassy is sending officials to shelters to help evacuate as many as 30,000 stranded American tourists. But at this time, John, it's still unclear how long before anyone will be able to go home. John?
NBC's Peter Alexander. Peter, thank you. And now for the projected path of this storm, we turn to the Today Show's Al Roker, who is in Naples, Florida. Good evening, Al. Where is this storm headed?
Well, it's heading right for the southwest coast of Florida, John. It's picking up speed and strength as we predicted. Right now, it's 105-mile-per-hour winds, a Category 2 storm. It's moving northeast at 14, 270 miles southwest of the Florida coast. Hurricane warnings, flood watches, tornado watches from Tampa, Florida on the west coast, Daytona on the east coast. Path of the storm, and you can see the radar now starting to bring the rain into western Florida. We're starting to get rain bands. The path of the storm brings it onshore right about 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, and when it comes onshore, it's bringing a lot of rain with it, anywhere from 5 to 8 inches of rain for the Keys, 4 to 8 inches of rain generally throughout southern Florida. Some areas picking up as much as 12 inches of rain, and this is going to be a storm surge event. We're talking about storm surges anywhere from 9 to 17 feet above normal south of where the hurricane makes landfall. We're expecting that to be anywhere from Marco Island, Fort Myers, down into the Everglades City. So this is going to still be a Category 2, maybe a Category 3 storm when it hits, John.
All right, Al, thank you. And Florida has had several days to prepare for this storm. An evacuation order is now in effect for much of the Gulf Coast to the southwest of Florida. NBC's Kerry Sanders also joins us tonight from Naples, which could possibly take the brunt of this storm. Good evening, Kerry.
Well, John, as we heard, it's the storm surge, which, if it comes ashore, could be high enough in this area to cover at least the first floor, if not part of the second floor of those buildings behind me. Most of the residents here have evacuated, but not everyone. A waterspout off Key West today, a sign of the coming hurricane. Police in Florida are urging those in evacuation zones to get out.
Any mandatory evacuation?
Some families who evacuated New Orleans are tonight on the move again.
Katrina, I had to evacuate New Orleans, went to Baton Rouge, ran into Rita, left Baton Rouge, come here, I run into Wilma.
For most of the day, the Florida Gulf Coast was clear and sunny. Some outdoor cafes were even open in Naples. Mixed signals to residents and tourists who hear Wilma is not what she once was.
Now they're saying it's not going to be too strong.
A hurricane is coming, and a hurricane's a hurricane.
But unlike most hurricanes, there's been an unusually long time to prepare. It's why in expected target areas, gasoline is easy to find. Grocery stores are fully stocked.
Usually you only have like 24 hours, 36 hours to get everybody in and out of the store. This we've had all week.
Tonight, as shelters begin to fill up, others say they're staying put.
I have two loves in my life, my wife and my boat. And I'm not going to let neither one of them get hurt.
Tonight, emergency officials are urging those who are in the path and haven't left to get out. There's still a little bit of time, they say, but not much longer. John?
NBC's Carrie Sanders. Carrie, thank you. It was a little more than a year ago, another hurricane named Charlie slammed into the Florida coast about 50 miles north of Naples. It's an area still recovering from that storm, now getting ready for Wilma. NBC's Tom Costello joins us tonight from Punta Gorda, Florida. Good evening, Tom.
John, good evening to you. And in fact, all four storms that tore through Florida last year destroyed 25,000 homes. Behind me, you can see that the remnants of Charlie and the destruction left behind here in Punta Gorda. The question tonight, is FEMA ready for yet another one? In Punta Gorda's FEMA village, where a year after Hurricane Charlie, 1,100 people are still in temporary housing, Gerald Sawyer was packing up his family and the pet turtle.
Losing my stuff's one thing, losing a family member because I didn't want to get out is another thing, and I'd hate to regret that later.
Today, FEMA said it's ready for whatever Wilma throws its way. 300 trucks full of ice, water, and food already pre-positioned, along with 4 search and rescue teams, 9 FEMA medical teams, and military and Coast Guard helicopters. That's in addition to the hundreds of trucks loaded with water, food, and ice the state has organized.
This is a team effort, and we're so thankful for FEMA.
A unified front, days after Homeland Security Chief Michael Chertoff told lawmakers FEMA has learned from its Katrina mistakes.
I think there was a flaw in the execution. I think the flaw lay in planning.
This time the planning includes 15 FEMA liaison teams already on the ground to report back on areas hardest hit, and better communication. 30 satellite phones distributed to local authorities to ensure there's no breakdown.
And that there is no daylight between the FEMA representatives and the Florida representatives that are working this storm.
Back in Punta Gorda, the last of the holdouts now packing up.
I don't want to be one of those caught and trapped up in it. After seeing what it did down there in New Orleans, it was scary and everything.
FEMA says the trailers in that park are supposed to withstand winds in excess of 100 miles per hour, but tonight the National Hurricane Center is recommending anybody try that. John?
NBC's Tom Costello. Tom, thank you. The other major story tonight, the war in Iraq, where this weekend the deaths of more Americans brings the toll of United States troops killed to just under 2,000 at 1,996. NBC's Richard Engel tonight in Baghdad on the casualties of war.
More casualties today in this relentless war. A suicide car bomb in Baghdad's Liberation Square killed at least 4 Iraqi police. 2 others targeted American patrols, but no official casualty report yet. 2.5 years since the start of the war, the American military death toll stands at nearly 2,000.
Today's attack on an American convoy behind me is part of a deadly trend. Despite increasing American military experience here in Iraq and an ever-growing number of Iraqi troops on the ground, the number of American casualties since this war began has steadily been rising.
While the month-to-month numbers can vary widely, During the first half of the war, the first 16 months, 862 American troops died in Iraq. During the second 16-month period up to today, 1,134 died. U.S. military officials say casualties are up because insurgents use more suicide attacks, bigger, more sophisticated roadside bombs.